All right, and you can begin whenever you're ready.
All right.
So Group 2 consists of 4 members, the first being myself. My name is Lynette Bardo. I currently work at the Pennsylvania Department of Education as a specialized career and technical program advisor.
My name is Jim Salisbury, and I am the campus president of Remington College, Nashville.
I'm Eric Zancanato. I'm currently a stay-at-home parent as well as an independent human capital strategy consultant.
My name is Faith Biesecker. I'm currently a lieutenant at the Gettysburg College Department of Public Safety.
The 4 of us came up with our presentation titled The Journey to Higher Education Administration. How are administrators creative? In order to work in higher education, one must gain experience in their chosen field. Each member of the group interviewed an administrative professional who provided insights on how a person can do just that. Ms. Patricia Landis, the Division Chief of Higher Education for the Pennsylvania Department of Education, had the following advice. Somebody who is interested in higher education, I would encourage them to stay in the campus environment as opposed to the state regulatory environment. A campus environment is more dynamic. You have contact with students on a daily basis just by working where they are. You also have the campus community.
I interviewed Dr. Michelle Friedrichs, the Dean of Academic Affairs for Remington College. And she shared that I never wanted to be an academic administrator. I really care about what I do, and I want to be the best at what I do. And because of that, I was moved into administrative roles.
Hi, Eric Zancanato here again. I interviewed Dr. Myra Edelstein. She is a faculty fellow and professor of practice in the Department of Studies, MBA in Management, Salve Regina University, Newport, Rhode Island. And her quote is, "One critical factor that helped me build a CV to obtain a faculty position was to take advantage of the education offered at my employers throughout my career."
And I interviewed Jennifer McCary, the Title IX coordinator and Dean of Violence Prevention for Gettysburg College. And she shared that networking is essential to being successful. Connections to colleagues in your own institution or at other institutions can help you find solutions to problems you're facing, learn from each other's successful programming, and open doors to new opportunities.
Our interviews led our group to begin researching what skills are valuable for an individual seeking a career in higher education administration. In order to be a successful administrator, a person needs to have strong communication skills. As I spoke to Ms. Landis, she mentioned that communication skills should be both written and verbally. Those who speak to as administrators have an expectation of what kind of communication that they will receive. A good point mentioned by Ms. Landis was that something could be grammatically correct, but it could still not make sense. We must be able to break down what is being said and understand the audience we are speaking to in order to be able to prevent any confusion. A second valuable skill is keeping a detailed curriculum vitae. If becoming an administrator is one of your professional goals, Richard Skinner recommends to always keep your resume or curriculum vitae updated and make it as detailed as possible. Oftentimes, faculty members will pursue administration positions as their career progresses. Having an understanding of the classroom, how it functions, how the students relate to what is being taught, this all plays a very pivotal role of having the skills to be a successful administrator. Richard Skinner also mentioned academic credentials as detailed in curriculum vitae carry great weight in the committee's assessment and factor heavily in a candidate-by-candidate assessment, in fact, a candidate review that unfolds in the process of determining who to recommend for closer consideration. Another valuable administrative skill to possess is organization. In speaking with Ms. Landis, a lot of times administrators have to follow up on problems that present themselves. If you do not have solid organizational skills, important things could end up falling through the cracks. Taking notes and setting reminders on a calendar are 2 examples of how one can keep themselves organized. Fourth, an administrator should have the ability to research. In order to make policies, understand trends, and set new programs into motion to fix any issues that may be occurring, Research will need to be conducted to have policies and programs that are both credible and supported. In today's day and age, an administrator must be prepared to be challenged. And when this occurs, facts from the research conducted will help support their decisions regarding the issues at hand. Furthermore, in order to improve an institution, an administrator must be able to identify areas of weakness. And again, this is done through researching institutional statistics. Finally, an administrator should have prior management experience. How a person is able to deal with situations involving not only students, but also faculty members will determine the success of the administrator. Is the candidate respected by peers? Have they worked well with them in the past? Can they diffuse situations? Are they able to listen to and develop solutions? Conversely, can they discipline and redirect any situations that occur? All of the skills that are mentioned above are extremely important in developing a successful administrative candidate. So, where do they come from? Jim will take us through the answer to this question.
Thanks, Lynette. I interviewed Dr. Michelle Friedrichs, who's the Dean of Academic Affairs for Remington College, a nonprofit tech school. And Dr. Friedrichs has served in a diverse set of positions and a diverse set of institutions. She has taught and served as in administration at Minnesota State University, Concordia University, and Rasmussen College, in addition to Remington College. Because of her background, I felt that Dr. Friedrichs was an excellent candidate to interview about this subject. When I asked Dr. Friedrichs about what leads a person to a career in higher ed administration, she began by discussing the motivation. This was interesting to me because my focus was on the where, while her focus, at least initially, was on the why. This slide begins with a quote from an article written by David Perlmutter discussing the motivation for moving into administration. If you are one of those people looking for glory and public appreciation for your administrative good deeds, such motivations will leave you frustrated and disappointed. During my interview with Dr. Friedrichs, she communicated a very similar sentiment. She stated that she has observed that there are two main motivations for getting into higher ed administration. The first is a desire for power or prestige. Some individuals want the recognition and trappings that come along with these positions. Dr. Friedrichs stated that in her experience, these individuals struggle to find success. The second type had no clear desire to get into administration. They may have thought about it or even saw themselves in an administrative position in the future, but their current focus was on being excellent in their current position, which was often a faculty position. These people are frequently put in leadership positions through nomination by their peers. Sometimes these education professionals are not completely comfortable being in these positions. They often did not get into education to be a boss or for financial reward. Dr. Friedrichs had these apprehensions when she was approached to apply for an administrative position. I asked her why she decided to go for it, and she responded that it was advice she had received from one of her mentors that was an administrator. He said, "Wherever you're going to be working really hard, so you might as well get paid for it." I thought this was excellent advice. Now Lynette will discuss more about being a faculty member in administration.
Administrators in the classroom is a new trend hitting higher education. In most cases, faculty members who have extensive experience in the classroom naturally end up progressing to an administrative position due to this experience. New research supports that administrators who remain in the classroom stay connected to the student experience. Having this continued interaction in the classroom allows administrators to also stay connected with faculty members. It prevents just division from occurring between the administrators and the faculty. Faculty members have numerous duties, which sometimes can be hidden from an administrator's point of view. These connections to student and faculty members have led the administrator to now be known as the humane administrator, in which they can keep relating to student and faculty members. Faculty members have the burden of learning course management systems, evaluating and ordering textbooks, entering grades in a timely manner, not to forget the research that goes into preparing for class. An administrator can lose sight of these tasks when they're not fully involved in the process. Remaining in the classroom, even at a minimum of one class per year, can help processes to become streamlined and made efficient due to the firsthand knowledge of what faculty members need to do on a daily basis. This leads to the change of who we are seeing as candidates in the administrative pool. Jim will take us through these changes.
Thank you, Annette. Here's a quote from David Lonrenecker, who was the president of the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. What you have is a substantial decline in the funding per student and not so much of funding overall. Two things I think are really problematic with that, though. One is that we made up all of the difference and then some on average with increases in tuition. And that has put a tremendously different price structure in front of students, particularly the middle income students. The second is that it also means that we got no more efficient in the process than we should have. Today, the funding per student, when you add the two together, is at the highest period of any time in the history of man. Any economist would say that that means we're less productive than we ever have been before. I feel that this quote is a great summarization of the reality of operations in higher education today. As higher ed institutions face tighter financial circumstances, they need to be able to make the philosophical and operational decisions needed to thrive. This is where having administrators with a business background can be helpful. Dr. Friedrichs felt that while administrators that come from a faculty position have an easier time gaining the respect of their peers, administrators that come from a business background often find it easier to lead, particularly in difficult operational situations. She used Remington College as an example. Remington has an executive administration team that contains a mixture of people that have come from education and people that have business backgrounds. In the past 5 years, Remington College went through some difficult times financially and operationally. Dr. Friedrichs made the comment that, I look at our organization, if we would have had a bunch of PhDs running around in Remington College, I am not sure that we would have survived what we just went through. In the end, Dr. Friedrichs feels that it is best to have a group of administrators with a varied background that can provide a balanced set of solutions to obstacles that an institution may face. Institutions must be able to balance the idealism of education and the efficiency of the business. Now, Eric will talk about shared governance and higher education administration.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I will be examining the importance of shared governance. What is it? Why is it important? One who is coming into the faculty or administrative role for the first time will find it highly beneficial to orient him or herself with the philosophy of shared governance. You want to assure yourself, in addition to having the requisite core technical competencies, that you can demonstrate clearly and compellingly that your personality profile jives with a system of shared leadership that pervades nearly all of higher education today. Dr. Myra Edelstein goes on to quote, "It is of critical importance to research an institution where you hope to secure a position in higher education to assure that your values align with the institution's mission. I have found throughout my career that employees who share the same values as the organization tend to be more content and productive." So let's take a deeper look into what shared governance comprises, what it means. And we begin with inclusivity and respect. They are both driving factors toward achieving effective shared governance. Cross-disciplinary work and working in teams with subcultures of the institution's culture, important necessities in shared governance operations. The goal is to get a critical mass of multidisciplinary people to unite around a common vision and to move it toward achieving that vision in harmony and in unison. So among the key building blocks are continuing assessment and feedback, both of which are vital parts to shared governance and are important building blocks for effective leadership. Continuous assessment and feedback also spur growth and development and develop internal talent and leadership, not to mention reduce turnover. In order for leadership to even be developed, leadership in and of itself has to be in place and serve as a model of the institution's culture. The University of Arizona has programs to facilitate the cultivation and installation of leadership, such as ALI, MAP, and Managed UA Way, all of which to instill these abilities. And there is more information on these programs and what these stand for in the presentation I will be providing to Dr. Loomis to share publicly. The expectations and standards of leadership roles must be defined in the context of treating others with respect and holding people to high standards. At this juncture is when we should see transpire a collaborative community manifest itself by exercising open dialogue and trust atmosphere. In achieving this, we need solid leadership. Is that for effective shared governance? And the process begins by virtue of harmoniously moving an institution forward while catalyzing broad-based consensus, thus setting the stage for effectively addressing campus-wide issues in a multidisciplinary, multicultural environment. So, these place with which to remove people from their silos and to bring them front and center so that we can address important, specific, and impactful issues on an institution-wide basis, such as culturally insensitive material introduced in the classroom, food access issues, or campus sustainability, just to name a few, all of which are issues that we may not see or see the full effect otherwise. So communal espousal of shared governance further fleshes out an inclusive, open, and collaborative atmosphere. And a strategy adopted by the University of Arizona to accomplish this was and still is career conversations. They entail open, bilateral, instead of unilateral periodic scoring of performance, thus revealing, through open and honest conversation, more about alluding to what's working or not, whether the institution is growing or not, and what is effective or not, thus opening up the door to further dialogue about the possible whys and the possible solutions to discovered organizational weaknesses. So remember that the pinnacle of shared governance is broad-based consensus that moves everyone toward a common vision that is tied in with the institution's strategic plan. And so questions to ask are, is the talent with which to do this in-house, or do we need to develop it in-house? To that point, Dr. Edelstein further says, quote, my experience indicates that employees who pursue professional development opportunities and continually grow their credentials are certainly appreciated and rewarded, end quote. And this is where HR should assume a prominent role. So human resources in higher education. Educating the whole student is the cornerstone of many institutions of higher education today. Complicating human resources and organization development initiatives in higher education are the not-blurred lines as to where instruction occurs, as student affairs, often non-faculty technically, the evolution thereof, offer substantive out-of-classroom educational programs, such as a first-year experience and the formation of learning communities. And the student affairs function also works closely with students so as to assure retention. So student affairs also tends the all-important student retention issue. So moving on from that, highly unique to higher ed HR is that the staff will advise search committees, and it is search committees, once again, that are highly unique and endemic to higher education human resource management, as well as the higher education organizational structure. So these search committees are often comprised of a broad cross-section of personnel whose composition is reflective of the key aspects of the job vacancy in question. And they, once again, tend to primarily faculty HR-related matters, and HR will otherwise stay out of faculty affairs, with the exception of tending such matters as faculty grievances, other EBA, collective bargaining agreement issues for unionized faculty. Otherwise, faculty often hire, promote, and terminate among other HR tasks to which they tend from within the faculty arena or in the purview of the academic affairs faculty function. Conversely, higher ed HR attends to nearly all HR matters for non-faculty, non-academic administration / professional and staff, including matching incentives with demographic rewards. In order to ascertain those demands and thus attract rightfully qualified candidates who also represent the desired diversity composition, so as to fulfill the institution's diversity and inclusion goals and objectives as they are delineated in the institution's affirmative action and overall strategic plan. So the two most important characteristics in a candidate are a demonstrable, firm commitment to holistic education and the ability for him/her to work just as well as a teammate as he or she can an individual working solo. So HR is a strategic partner in the continuation of an effective system of shared governance. Albeit that such a democratic form of governance will encompass many stakeholders, attending many types of issues and challenges that may or will arise, an important one that reverberates throughout an entire campus community in higher education today in general is the Education Amendments of 1972, Title IX. This law pertains to any higher education institution that receives federal financial assistance. Furthermore, as per the U.S. Department of Education's 2011 Dear Colleague letter, every institution must have at least one designated Title IX coordinator who enforces its provisions, promulgated and enforced by the Office of Civil Rights, OCR. Faye spoke with Jennifer McCrary, the Title IX coordinator for Gettysburg College, and will discuss the issue of compliance and administration further.
So as Eric said, human resource departments have to be cognizant of Title IX, as well as Clery Act implications in daily practices. These laws affect not only hiring practices, faculty and staff conduct, but also guidelines for having student workers in the office. The Clery Act is a consumer protection law that aims to provide transparency around campus crime policy and statistics. Institutions that receive federal funding are required to distribute an annual security report, keep a daily crime log, issue timely warnings and emergency notifications, and notify and train campus security authorities of their responsibilities. A campus security authority is an individual who works for campus police or security, has responsibility for campus security not associated with the aforementioned departments, is specified by policy as an individual or department where crimes can be reported, or has significant responsibility for student and campus activities. Clery also requires institutions to provide victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking with information on the resources available to them and their rights and options. Title IX states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial aid. So it also applies to institutions receiving federal funding and provides guidelines around employment, discipline, retaliation, and sex-based harassment. It requires the institutions to have a Title IX coordinator, like Eric said, and schools must then respond quickly to and remedy reports of sexual discrimination, harassment, or violence. Under Title IX, colleges and universities must also notify and train responsible employees or reporting procedures. Responsible employees are considered to be individuals who are likely to receive reports of violence, including professors, administrators, cleaning staff, coaches, etc. So when looking to hire for a specific position in higher education, especially an administrative position, institutions need to advise the person if they are a responsible employee or a campus security authority. They then need to ensure those individuals are trained on the appropriate reporting protocol. Jennifer McCary, Associate Dean of Violence Prevention and Title IX Coordinator, said, complying with Title IX and Clery is a collaborative effort. Administrators across institutions in departments including public safety, human resources, college life, and residence life work together to ensure their schools are in compliance. There are currently 318 active Title IX investigations being conducted by the Office of Civil Rights for Clery and Title IX violations. There are also 62 cases that have been resolved. Some schools even have investigations occurring at the same time, multiple investigations occurring at the same time. As a result of these investigations, institutions can face a fine of $35,000 per violation. The highest fine issued at this time was to the Pennsylvania State University at $2.4 million. Fines this high show just how important it is for institutional collaboration ensuring compliance. McCary was able to provide examples of challenges institutions are facing with compliance. They included adjusting aspects of the hiring process, accurately getting various departments, administrators, and faculty members on board, counting and classifying crimes, utilizing successful prevention programming, and adequately responding to and investigating these crimes. During the hiring process, employers need to notify new faculty, staff, and administrator of their responsibilities. They need to know if they're a responsible employee or a campus security and what that entails. They then need to receive yearly training on the matter. Getting departments, administrators, and faculty members on board has also become an issue for institutions. Some tenured faculty members may refuse to report crime information they are required to or complete the required training based on personal feelings surrounding a relationship with a student who reported a crime or what they've done in the past. Departments and administrators may not want to comply with different aspects of Clery and Title IX because it could show the institution in a bad light. One example of this would be an admissions office not wanting to distribute the daily crime and fire log or the annual security report because of the crime statistics. Counting and classifying crimes can become a problem if information isn't reported accurately, or if public safety and police departments want to misclassify crimes to lower their statistics. Institutions may be unsuccessful in implementing successful crime prevention programming because the program isn't interesting to students or they don't have the funds to incorporate new activities. Finally, responding to and investigating crimes can be challenging because of the type of incident being reported. Most incidents of sexual violence include alcohol, which can make getting accurate information difficult. And the perpetrator is often someone the victim knows, so students may not want to cooperate with the investigation process because of social repercussions. McCary said that despite these challenges, she knows complying with Title IX and Clery have not only bettered Gettysburg College's response process, but made students more comfortable with reporting. The most significant impacts she sees are often ones that aren't seen by others. It's when a student says, "I wouldn't be here without you." It's important for all administrators to understand the significance of these laws and understand their roles in compliance. When college administrators work together, they can ensure institutional compliance with Clery and Title IX. To conclude our discussion on the journey of the journey to higher education administration, Eric will summarize our presentation.
Thank you, Faith. I appreciate that. From the professor to students to be good stewards of the world, and thereby push our nation forward through scholarship and service, to the campus police officer who was there in a time of crisis, to the HR administrator who ensures the right people are hired for the right positions and at the right time, and to the institutional researcher that works tirelessly to ensure that we have the right quantification of resources with which the institution move in the right direction, we all have one common underlying theme that lives within each of them. That is a steadfast commitment to student success. With our servant hearts, this is how administrators enduringly serve our faculty, staff, fellow administrators, students, alumni, and communities. Together and through effective democratic leadership, we make higher education a critical component to achieving and sustaining a society of great sovereignty and represent a tremendous exemplar to our neighbors, both on the home front and around the world. Thank you very much.
The end.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're able to tie all that together at the end, Eric. I wasn't sure. I mean, it really illustrates the diversity, I think, of higher education and the complexity of it.
Mhm.
And it's always a challenge when you're trying to look at specific aspects and features and then tie it together under this theme and umbrella, which you did amazingly well. So, yeah, I think I just have, is anybody else on with us? I want to make sure I'm not missing any besides all the presenters.
Yes, there's 2 other people.
Other people? Okay, good. You can see that, Faith. Yeah, I can see. All right, well, let me just open it up and see if there are any questions from any of the guests for our presentation this evening.
Hi, I was just observing their PowerPoint, that's all.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I can see 7 participants here, so that's good at the bottom. Anyone else? Any comments or questions?
Kim, I don't know if your sound is on.
Oh, good, Lynette. You can see that.
Oh, yeah, haha, yeah, no, it's not.
All right, good. Good. Go ahead.
So, that was a lot of information. You guys obviously put an awful lot of work. And I have to say, it just underlies for me the importance of this work that we do. You know, there's so much more to it than I think people realize. You know, when people say to me, oh, what are you going to school for? And I'm like, oh, my master's in higher ed. Oh, well, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to teach? And when I say, no, that's not my plan, you know, that's not my plan. And they're like, oh, well, what are you going to do with that? You know, and I'm like, you know, my plan is student engagement, but, you know, they, you know, I don't think they realize just how much touching of our students' lives happens. And so seeing that path really to see it laid out that way was really quite impressive.
Thank
Quite
you.
impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's why we wanted to encompass each different area that an administrator can actually work in, and just how the whole team, especially focusing on the HR and the Title IX, we wanted a specific example of a type of administrator that you may not think of, that is actually plays a pivotal role on the campus. So it kind of was interesting to see everybody's perspective from what they do now and kind of collaborate that all together to the full picture of a true administrator.
It's interesting you say that. The Title IX coordinator is so crucial. We, at my college, it was a position that took a long time for us to fill. Our director of HR was our Title IX coordinator until they decided to break that off. And it took them a long time. They were very thoughtful and thorough and made sure when they went through the applicant pool that they got the right person, because it is so critical, especially in today's day and age, to make sure that you have the right person in that position. So I enjoyed it very much.
And to that point, your institution made a good decision to separate Title IX from HR, because I looked at the job description as well as a lot of details concerning Title IX. And of course, you know, I have my friendship and colleague relationship with Faith. And there's a lot to it. And I've seen higher education organizations either have it fall under the purview of the Department of General Counsel or Student Affairs, or literally make it its own position that has a direct report to the president or chancellor, because it's so specialized and it's such a legal type of position that I really either take someone with an expansive criminal justice background like Faith, or someone with a formal legal background. And I know there are a lot of employment law related matters to which HR will tend. However, I just feel from my experience and my own perspective that Title IX is a little off the beaten path for HR. Better belongs with the Department of Public Safety, the General Counsel, Student Affairs, or its very position, if you will, on an organization chart with a direct reporting relationship to the president or chancellor.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yeah, I would agree with that, Eric. I worked in Title IX. I was an investigator for the Office for Civil Rights for 10 years before I transitioned to higher ed.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, back then we were really focused on, this would be back in the, late 70s through the mid 80s. We focused on Title IX athletics and a little bit about sexual harassment. We got some complaint investigations from students on sexual harassment, but the whole issue of sexual assault was not on the radar at all, interestingly enough. And that becomes so much more complex, and it's a criminal legal matter, and really someone with specialized experience like Faith, I think, are ideal. You're ideally positioned, Faith, for a career in that area at a very high level. I think, Eric, you're right. It's a position that would report to the president or a vice president, and separated out from the organization, where you can do real education and advocacy and training. And I tend to think too, I'm a little Pollyannish about this, but I just think, and maybe Kim, you were getting at this too, but the role of higher ed, how complex it is, and the need for specialized training. If we can create mechanisms where students can develop an understanding of, healthy lifestyles and healthy relationships, to try to combat this issue of excessive alcohol consumption that leads to all kinds of problems and abuse, and problems later in life too. I mean, it's really tragic. I'm not saying things are so much worse than they were 20, 25 years ago, but I think they're an order of magnitude worse, and at least our awareness about the problem is heightened. So the need for specialized expertise, specialized leadership positions, I think, is right on target. And Faith, your presentation was excellent, and just beautifully done. All of you. I mean, you did great research, and your presentation skills were outstanding. So you've mastered that. The use of technology, making a presentation like this, not that much different than a live audience or a conference presentation. So you should all think about that, making presentations in the future with professional associations and the like. And Lynette, let me just go through I think you're in such an interesting position in the Department of Education. I'm not sure, I think that's an important component of higher education, even though you don't have direct student contact and work with faculty. It's such an opportunity, I think, for guidance and funding innovation. And, so if you're in that special ed career technical area, and my own feeling is we need to do more in higher education to reach out and support special populations. So not just for diversity, but also to serve the disability community. And even people with intellectual disabilities, I think, have a place on a 4-year campus in some way for some programs. So I just think the whole area of disability services or special programs for people with all different types of disabilities. There are regulations enforcing that, Section 504 that I was involved with OCR as well. And we haven't come nearly as far as I think we should. And our own institution, Penn State, is doing some things, but not enough, I would argue, to serve that population. So I just think for you, that area is wherever you wanted to go with that, in whatever venue you wanted to pursue it, would be a great thing. But
Thank you.
so I just wanted you to think about it. Any reactions to that?
So one of the main reasons that I started into the higher education program was because of the fact that a lot of my adults didn't have help as they started going back to school. When I worked in career education, especially adults who have been out of school for 10, 15 years, didn't have simple characteristics to study, know how to and just that's where my focus is in adult education and getting help into even adults that have the learning disabilities, IEPs, and specialized needs, because colleges, they don't focus on that, unfortunately. And even though 504 is in place, we see it more for physical disabilities than we see it for intellectual disabilities, and everybody should have the chance to be able to participate with that. I was telling the group that through interviewing with my professional mentor, I actually am starting a new job in a couple of weeks, which would be with her department in higher education. So a couple of benefits came out of this.
All right, good.
Including the interview.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's great. No, it's the Department of Education. It's a great Pennsylvania department to work for. I did a little work with labor and industry, but I really like the education people, and I think we'll have fun there. And I considered it career and technical education to be part of higher education. A lot of people say, well, but it really is part of post-secondary education, and we don't give it enough attention. Not every student should go to a 4-year college.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So we're kind of focused on that as opposed to what's the right fit and match for students' abilities and interests and where they want to go in their career. And that's a big part of the retention problem, because we accept 60% of the high school graduates and only 40% graduate from 4-year institutions. So maybe that 20% would be better served at a different type of institution.
One part that's really interesting is right now, since I work with career and ed, I got in my previous career, I got private education and career education. In my current job right now, I have secondary students that I got to focus on. And then of course I'll be moving on to more adult education. But in the secondary, they started talking about introducing career concepts as early as 3rd grade now. So right now they mandated for 5th grade, but introducing the students to career and college avenues that they can take as early as 3rd grade to know that it is a resource for them and that they can go either way. It doesn't have to just be that 4-year college, but it's available.
Great.
So that's something that will be up and coming with 339s.
Good. Well, good luck with all of that. But the other thing I thought you did well was highlight the importance of administrators getting into the classroom in some way. Maybe they can't teach a course, but they should guest lecture. They should stay very connected, I think, to students. Some college presidents will help with move-in day. You know what I mean? Or go to parents' weekend, interact with parents. All that stuff is good. And, I think teaching and the humane administrator is a very powerful idea. And, I've worked with presidents who called themselves humane administrators, but when push came to shove, they really didn't act in accordance with that concept time and again. So you have to live that philosophy and demonstrate that. And, Eric, I think in terms of the values of the institution, the culture of the institution, the leadership, the president and the vice president are very crucial to establishing that connection between leadership and culture.
Yes.
And then I think what you did very well was illustrate the importance of HR being a positive influence, sometimes an enforcer, but a really positive influence in establishing a culture and a way of doing things on a college campus the right way, and instilling those values and reinforcing those values and facilitating mechanisms like career conversations and the like. That's a great role for HR to play, and I hope you have a future in facilitating that at a college campus as well. But yeah, very nicely done.
Thank you. Good.
Okay, and James, I thought you covered the importance of having a diverse administrative leadership team with different skills and different backgrounds. And it is, I would argue that you'll see more and more presidents coming from a non-academic background.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see that a little bit as a trend, where you don't have to come up through the academic ranks as a faculty member and a provost and the like, that there is, people are seeing value with people from either a political background or a business background, or even a consulting background. One of the best presidents I saw and worked with was a fellow named John Fry, who was president at Drexel. Before that, he was president at Franklin and Marshall. And his career path was through consulting. So he was a consulting for KPMG and higher education practice, and developed a wonderful consulting relationship with the University of Pennsylvania. And through that, they hired him as a vice president for business and finance at Penn. And then from that, he went on to become president at first Franklin and Marshall and then Drexel. So that type of career path, I think we'll see more and more of. So people, the president has to raise money and has to manage the institutional budget, particularly for small institutions. It's a major challenge because you're enrollment driven.
Yeah.
And I think for colleges like yours at Remington, you're very enrollment driven.
Yeah, it's funny, even as a nonprofit now, it's impossible to get away from that being the focus, just because it keeps the lights on, it pays the salaries. If we're not watching it month to month, it can become very, very tight.
No, and even public institutions, because of declining high school graduates, declining enrollments, then that becomes a challenge for a president of a public institution, and decreased financial or state support for public higher education. So you have to operate with a business background and understand how to manage budgets and balance budgets and the like. So I thought that was very well done. So each of you did a terrific job. I just want to give you a chance to reflect a little bit back to me about this assignment. What did you like about it? What did you learn from each other? What were some of the challenges in arriving at a topic? It's a pretty open assignment because I want you to determine a topic and areas of interest so that you produce something that's first valuable to you individually and collectively, and then something that's interesting to share with the class. And you met that goal for me, developing something interesting that will benefit your classmates. But if you could reflect a little bit on the assignment, Faith, maybe we can start with you, and then Eric and James and Lynette.
I thought the assignment was really fun. I think my personal work and life and things made things a little bit difficult for everybody. Working evening shift and having unexpected overtime and mandated shifts and things definitely made things hard. But I was so happy with everyone who I was working with, Lynette and Eric and James, just because they made it so easy for me and were so understanding when I did have to say, I'm not going to be able to make it, or can we move things? They made this project so great.
Good.
Excellent.
Eric?
And yes, and I certainly agree with, we were very accommodating of one another, very understanding, yet we held one another to high standards. We were able to keep the group focused while still being main to one another. And I think that we were also able to learn very well from one another and to discover where we had compatibilities as well as mutual interests, and where we also had opposite interests that actually jived quite well, complemented, our different interests quite well. It was certainly fun. Yes, it was challenging at times, but we stayed focused on a vision. We had a mission of making this come to fruition. We envisioned what it would be, and we stayed focused, and we ultimately got there. And I thank all the other group members, Faith, Jim, and Lynette, for all of their dedication, understanding, passion, and their core competencies. It was a great time. I was reticent at first about this. I know you and I had a phone conversation due to quite an experience I had at another institution, group work gone awry, but we really kept a lid on things. This was done very, very professionally, and it gives me a renewed sense of confidence in getting personal group in the future should I.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. No, and invariably, we've all had these experiences in our academic life. We worked on a group project. It was a disaster. And we're happy never to see those people again. But I tried to tell Eric, that's not going to be that case. At least I haven't had that experience in teaching this course, because you're just at a different level of commitment and maturity, and otherwise you wouldn't be in the program or be accepted as a student. So, yeah, I'm glad you had a positive experience. James, any other reflections or comments from you?
No, very similar experience. It's, coming back to school and, taking the class, and it's online group project. You're ready for it to be effective. It really ended up being great. It was really, just the process, the reflection, the examination of what you want to do with your career was really valuable. And then also just getting to see, 3 of your peers who are doing the same maybe not the same thing you want to do, but going through that same process was very helpful. Kind of like looking from the outside in, but no, the group members were awesome. You know, it's hard to make a group meeting at 9 o'clock on a Monday night a pleasant experience, but they did. So thank you guys.
Very good.
Our pleasure.
And Lynette, any wrap-up comments?
We had a great group. And I think when we first started talking, we all were able to express where we were now and where we wanted to end up. And we utilized where we wanted to end up as our main focus and kind of that drive to be able to get to the presentation that we were at. And we were all able to kind of think outside of the box, which I thank everybody for that. Being able to take, you know, we started with just the word administrator. And then each of us kind of put concepts in, and Eric's great with words, so he was able to develop that title and that concept for us. And then as we talked each week, we're kind of each able to give each other constructive criticism. Hey, this works. Hey, this doesn't work. How did your interview go? What did you think about it? What points did you pull from it? And then be able to talk collectively. It wasn't one person who said, hey, this should be this, this, and this. It was really a group effort to the setting up of the slides, the topics that we were all going to take, even going into the transitions from slides to make sure that we were able to connect with it. And having a group that's able to, one, sit and listen to everybody's opinions, and then be able to actually bring that to fruition and bring that to life was great to see. We had 2 meetings last week. One was Tuesday, and then Sunday. And just the differences from how we were able to present on Tuesday to Sunday showed the dedication of the group. And you don't get that a lot in a group presentation. And even our second run through yesterday, you know, you kind of just felt that ease with everybody working together. Who's chiming who, what words work better, what do we need to cut? And you know, being the group leader, everybody was very accommodating with submitting stuff on time. I travel for work, so some of my timelines, I'd apologize because I needed it, or I would be on the road and not be able to do it. And everybody was great with that, and I could have asked for a better group. So I want to thank everybody for the education that was provided through this presentation, the backgrounds of each of us to help us learn where we can end up, and then to work together to produce this final product. You guys were great. Thank you.
Wow, that's a great wrap up, Lynette. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I'm hoping, you know, with these assignments that you learn a lot from each other. You learn how to collaborate and master the technology and make an effective presentation, but that you kind of get to know each other and maybe establish some relationships that will carry forward beyond this course. And I'm a big believer in online learning and asynchronous learning, but these kinds of synchronous opportunities are very valuable, I think, and help improve the learning. So, you know, it's challenging sometimes with work schedules and time zone differences and things like that. But students, you know, at least for an assignment like this, can make it work. We couldn't have a class every week like this. It just wouldn't work. So that's why we do it asynchronously. But if we can blend in this type of opportunity, I think it works well. And you learn a lot. And it's so fitting that I'm looking at this slide because you epitomize student success in this assignment and each of you in this course. So I can't thank you enough for your dedication to all that we did this semester. And you helped give me some positive energy with everything that you wrote and every assignment. It was very life-giving for me. So I thank you for that, the opportunity to spend time with you. And I'm always available beyond this course. So if I can help you in any way, I'm going to retire at the end of this summer session, but that doesn't mean I'm going away. For as long as I'm around and you can get a hold of me, I want to help you in any way that I can in this program and in your career. So thanks so much for sharing tonight. And we just have a couple more assignments to do, and then we'll wrap up the course, and I should be able to get your grades in by next week. So I hope you're all taking courses in the summer, or at least having a good time in the summer. Something fun to be planned. And or maybe both. Why can't you do both? Study and have a good time.
I'll be trying.
Oh yeah, institutional research and have fun. Mhm.
Oh, wow. That's a good comment. Yeah, you'll have to have fun with that.
Yeah, living the dream.
That's a good course. You'll like it. All right. Well, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Take care now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.